Hey guys, with Valentine's Day fast approaching, I thought I would talk about perfumes that lasted the longest for me. These are perfumes that will last through your entire date of that evening. The entire date, if you know what I'm talking about. These are perfumes that will just really stick around for a long time. Like you'll wake up the next morning still smelling like these perfumes. I have an enormous perfume collection, which is why I'm here in this room filming today. I did not feel like bringing all of these bottles down to my filming room. So I'm just gonna open up this cabinet here behind me and we're just going to peek in. Sorry, I also have some bedding up here. But I'm gonna turn you guys around and just show you my collection here. So I do have a lot of perfume. Now, I haven't tried every perfume on the market. I think that would be impossible, but I have tried quite a few. So I want to share with you the ones that have had the longest lasting power. Now, this is a brand because every single perfume from this brand has had incredible, incredible lasting power, and that is Creed. I'm holding up the Aventus for Her. This is a very citrusy, light, bright fragrance. And you know, in my mind, whenever I talk about light and fresh and citrusy fragrances, they don't necessarily last the longest on me because they are light. And I was shocked and floored at how long this lasted. I spritzed just a couple. I remember it was like my first time using it outside of like trying it at the department store where I purchased it. So first time I was using it and I was like, okay, I'll just like do like one spritz on my neck, one spritz on my wrist, and I went about my day and I could smell it the next morning. So it lasted well over 24 hours. I don't even think it faded that much. The lasting power for the Freed fragrances is phenomenal. So that's Aventus for Her. I do also have Silver Mountain Water. Now this is actually a fragrance that Kelsey Brianna J recommended to me because we both have a love of fragrances. We would chat about it very often. I shared with her my love for the Aventus for Her and she was like, have you tried Silver Mountain Water? I was like, I have not. She was like, you have to try it. This also is really, really fresh. This one, it's a little bit less citrusy, a little bit more like a light floral. And again, the lasting power is absolutely incredible. So if you're not really into citrus, I love citrus. I love citrus flavors. I think they're just, you know, fun. They're not too serious. I feel like I can wear them for pretty much any occasion. They're like not a heavy lift for me. But if you don't like citrus, if you feel like it smells maybe a little bit too anesthetic, it smells just a little bit too fruity, I think you would probably like this Silver Mountain Water. It is a little bit more floral, but it has a similar kind of light brightness to it. The other Creed fragrance I have is this Millissime Imperial. This is, I want to say, it's very unisex, maybe a little masculine leaning. I like fragrances that have a little masculinity to them, a little bit of like oud or musk or something, like kind of like a deep base note. And this definitely has a little bit of woodiness to it, but Creed definitely likes to keep their fragrances, at least the ones I've experienced, a little bit light and a little bit bright so that it's not too overpowering. It's not too much like you're sitting in a dark library with oak paneling and, you know, drinking whiskey or whatever. Their fragrances definitely are a little bit lighter and brighter than that, even though this one has like a little bit more gravitas than those two. This Aqua Fiorentina from Creed is fruity, but it's not citrusy. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of citrus, but I smell more berries. I smell a little bit more, maybe even a melon in there. When everything is kind of combined, I feel like there's a little bit of that. So the fruitiness in here is not quite as bright. I find this one to be a little bit more sweet. So if you like that, I think you'll really like this. This one definitely is on the feminine side, but again, this has outstanding longevity. The last Creed fragrance I have is the Neroli Sauvage, and this I was kind of hoping was going to be like kind of similar to the Aventus for Her because of the Neroli, which is kind of like a citrusy, has like a citrusy kind of note to it. This one definitely smells, it's very light, it is very bright. The Neroli is very, very evident, but there's something very masculine about this one. This one kind of reminds me of aftershave. So it has like a clean, freshly showered kind of feeling to it, but it's definitely more unisex even though it's still light and bright. I really, really like this one. For some reason, I associate this one to like deep summer. I feel like this is so great if I feel like I'm gonna be spending the day outside or kind of like walking around. I don't know why. It just has that outdoorsy kind of feeling to it. So that's the Neroli Sauvage. Those are the Creed fragrances that I have in my collection. Creed is one of, if not the oldest, fragrance maker out there. I think they began in the UK like in the 1700s. Creating fragrances for like nobility or whatever. They have a ton of different fragrances. Those are the only 5 that I have. I would really love to build up my collection, but I have so much perfume that for now I'm just gonna leave it there because I am very, very happy with the 5 that I have from them. But if you are looking for a fragrance that's just gonna last all day without any reapplication, definitely give Creed a shot. So another brand that I've had really, really good luck with in terms of longevity is Parfums de Marly. So I've got 3 different fragrances here. I'll start with the one that I think is probably the most popular, which is Delina in this pink bottle. So Delina it's very, very feminine. There's, I feel like, equal parts fruitiness, floral, and vanilla. It's a very sweet, not quite as light as the Creed fragrances. There is definitely a bit more of a headiness to this. It's not overpowering. I don't think it's not overpowering or a fragrance that just kind of gets like caught in your throat. It's not heavy like that, but I feel like this is a fragrance that you'll become a little bit more intoxicated with. And this is a fragrance I remember putting on when I was going out on a date with my husband. And I generally wear like cleaner fragrances, brighter fragrances. And my husband was really taken by this. He was like, oh, what are you wearing? And he could smell it in the car and he could smell it over dinner. Woke up the next morning, I could still smell it. So this definitely has a very decent lasting power. And this fragrance, while I don't necessarily like sweet fragrances, you'll probably get a sense of that as I continue talking about the fragrances that I have. I don't really like sweet ones, but this one, for some reason, it's so charming. And I think it's because it has a little bit of everything. It's not just gourmand, you know, it's not just like vanilla and coffee or whatever. It has like the vanilla, but there's also florals in there. And I think what saves this from being too, I don't know, grandma-ish, I hate using that term, but, or what I should say, what keeps this sort of modern, it's not powdery at all. It doesn't have that kind of floral note to it. I find the notes in here to be cleaner than something kind of powdery. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Delina. Super long lasting. I love it. This one from Parfums de Marly is Cassili. And this one I find to be just lighter all around than Delina. It has a bit of fruitiness, it has a bit of floral, and it even has like a little bit of vanilla. It has like a lighter touch. So I would almost consider this like a daytime fragrance, and the Delina a little bit more of like a date night fragrance. So I really like this one if you think Delina maybe is just a little bit too much, a little bit too heady. I think you may like this Cassili one. And this Parfums de Marly is actually for men, and this is called Perseus, and it is equal parts citrus and woody. So it has that clean, fresh citrus feeling to it, but the woodiness kind of gives it that aftershave feeling. And I love wearing this. This one for me is just a little bit cleaner, a little bit more citrusy than this one even from Creed. And I love wearing this one all year round. I feel like this is very appropriate because the citrusy is great for spring, summer, but then that woodiness is great for fall, winter. This is really, really lovely. And my whole world of fragrance opened up when I started opening myself up to like men's fragrances or fragrances that were developed for men or with men in mind. There's so many of them, especially if you like clean fragrances or if you like woody or oud type fragrances. There are so many in the men's world that I really encourage you women out there to give a shot because they're so great. Even though they're packaged for men, I think you would enjoy them too. This next fragrance is the first fragrance I ever purchased from Byredo. I have a couple of other ones. I've got Tobacco Mandarin here, this guy. And I also have Rose of No Man's Land. Now, I definitely would not complain about the longevity of those other two, but this pulp, this is probably, I mean, next to the Aventus for Her, yeah, this probably lasts the longest. And just like its name would suggest, it is like orange pulp. It is really citrusy. It's so juicy. It smells like a citrus or orange juice based cocktail. In fact, I'm gonna look up the notes because I'm wondering if there are any other notes in here. It's so citrusy. And I will never forget, I purchased this at the Barney's in Chicago. R.I.P. So the top is bergamot, blackcurrant, and cardamom. Heart is fig, red apple, and TR. I think that's a flower. Base cedarwood, peach flower, and praline. It's so bergamot, blackcurrant, red apple. It's all of these juicy, juicy fruits, and I love this. For the entirety of summer, I always think about this pulp fragrance. It's so delicious. It's so mouth-watering, and in fact, my mouth is watering right now just smelling this. I don't tend to like, perfumes that smell like food necessarily, but when it smells like a juicy cocktail, I am all in. This is absolutely fantastic. But anyway, back to the point of this particular video, this is very long lasting, very, very long lasting. It's not even like, oh, there's like a hint of it the next day. No, it feels like I just sprayed it on my skin. So this one, if you're looking for something long lasting, I highly recommend. And of course, you have to like a fruity fragrance. I only have 3 fragrances from this line, but all 3 have incredible lasting power. These are fragrances from Frederic Malle. And this one is Promise. Now, I've talked about this in terms of it being one of my all-time favorite fragrances, a fragrance that I always pull out and think of during the fall and the winter. And I was actually just recently reminded of this fragrance because a friend of mine wore this around me, and I was like, what is that? That smells so good and so familiar. And he was like, it's Promise. So this has a lot of clove in there. And it just smells like a dark, smoky room. It is so intoxicating. It is so, I think it's very, very seductive in a way. It is, it just reminds me of those dark, dark bars in New York City that you have to go like underground for. And they're like after hours and you're there and like your buzz is wearing off and everyone has just been like smoking all night. I know I'm not painting a great picture, but that's what it reminds me of, which for me are very, very fond memories. Now this fragrance, and this is more of a warning, once you spray this on your body, your clothes are gonna smell like it, your handbag is going to smell like it, your hair is going to smell like it. This is not only long lasting, it is very, very potent. It's very, very potent. It's a good thing I love this fragrance. So that is Promise. I also have Portrait of a Lady. So Portrait of a Lady it's like a little bit earlier in the evening than Promise, if you get my drift. You're sitting at the bar, maybe it's a dark bar, but maybe it's just like 10 p.m. Like we're not like 10 drinks in, we're like 2 drinks in. This is what Portrait of a Lady is. There's a lot more like deep florals in this. Oh God, it smells so good. So, so good. But just like the Promise, this is very, very potent and very, very long lasting. But the rose in here is such a unique rose scent. It's definitely not a light, bright garden party kind of rose. It is the deepest part of like a dark, dark red, almost black rose. That's what this smells like to me. Oh my gosh, it is, again, just like Promise, it's very, very intoxicating and very, very seductive, but you have to like that like deep kind of floral fragrance. These Initio fragrances are also very, very long lasting. So this one is Oud for Greatness, and this one is Side Effect. And I purchased these off of the recommendation of Stephanie Windsor. She had ordered them off of Selfridges because Initio was not even available here in the US yet. And I followed her lead because she was just raving about them. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and order them. So good. This one actually reminds me a little bit of Delina. Am I losing my mind? Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Delina. It is a little bit more unisex in that it's a little bit less sweet. But I remember wearing this one for the first time, and I woke up the next morning and I could smell it. But because it was new to me, I wasn't familiar with the smell. And I thought my husband maybe had used like new shampoo or something, new lotion or something. And I was grilling him. I was like, what does that smell? What does that smell? And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He was like, get away from me, crazy woman. And I realized, I was like, oh my God, it's my new perfume. And I could smell it the next morning. So this definitely has lasting power for sure. I think the note that I smell the most in the Oud for Greatness is saffron. And it's probably because, well, saffron is very potent, but it's also because it's so unique. And I feel like that's what I smell in the Oud for Greatness. And then side effect, same situation, very, very long lasting. Side effect is a little bit more gourmand. There is tobacco in there, which I love. I just love, love, love the smell of tobacco. It does also have saffron in there. I feel like there's like a little bit of spiciness to it too. I really love it. I love both of these fragrances, and they both are, I would kind of consider them both to be like fall, winter fragrances. Not that they're necessarily heavy, but they're very, I don't know, they're very like warm, very, very warm. They're both very, very warm. So anyway, I love those fragrances, very, very long lasting. Now I could go on and on because as you just saw, I have a ton of fragrances, but I'm gonna stop it there because we talked about Creed, we talked about Perfumes de Marly, Frederic Malle, Initio, and then that one from Byredo. So I think that gives you a good idea if you're looking for like a long lasting fragrance. That gives you a good idea like which brands to start with, or if you want something particularly juicy, I would go with Byredo Pulp. But let me know if you guys have any questions down below in the comments section. I love talking about fragrances, and Valentine's Day is just such a good excuse to talk about fragrances. So give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video.